Revealed, how one incredible act by his maid changed the lives of Billionaire's twins forever. Ethan and Emma sat in the grand living room of their opulent mansion, the scent of rich mahogany and fresh flowers swirling around them. Their father, a self-made billionaire, had planned another lavish family gathering, a display of wealth complete with sparkling chandeliers and a six-course dinner. But on the eve of the party, Ethan and Emma felt the void settle into their hearts again. Each extravagant detail felt hollow, overshadowed by their father's unyielding ambition. As guests flowed in, the twins brushed shoulders with polished relatives, exchanging disingenuous smiles, all the while ensnared in a web of expectation. They were the golden children, encased in privilege but suffocated by the same gilded cage. Just as Ethan turned to share a knowing glance with Emma, chaos erupted. The sound of glass shattering echoed like thunder, and suddenly, a decorative chandelier began to fall. In that heart-stopping instant, time slowed. Emma's breath caught as she turned, eyes wide. But Maria, their young maid, dashed through the crowd, arms outstretched as she yanked Emma aside. Ethan watched, frozen in awe, as Maria launched herself into the path of danger. The world went silent. Crash! The chandelier splintered as it hit the ground where they had stood just moments before. A wave of shock rolled through the guests, all eyes wide with disbelief. Maria lay there, dazed but alive. Her sacrifice had saved their lives. A rush of gratitude and newfound connection surged through Ethan and Emma. They knelt beside Maria, their privilege stripped away, and they saw her, the real her. Maria's eyes, usually filled with kindness, now brimmed with tears. The fear of losing her job could have paralyzed her, yet she acted with a fierce resolve that stunned them both. Ethan felt a tightness in his chest, a sense of duty awakening within him. That moment was pivotal. They couldn't simply return to their plush lives, insulated by wealth. They began volunteering at local community centers, diving headfirst into the vibrant worlds they'd only ever glimpsed from afar. Yet skepticism loomed large among their wealthy peers, with whispers drifting through elegant hallways. Fake benevolence, they'd say. The judgment added weight to their already burdened hearts, but the twins pushed forward, determined to learn and grow. Just as they began to find their footing, disaster struck. Maria's family faced a financial crisis threatening everything they had worked for. Ethan and Emma stood on shaky ground, torn between the comforts of their father's empire and the moral dilemma of truly supporting a family in distress. Their father's focus on profit often drowned out the voices of those in need, leaving them ghostly shadows. "Thanks for trying," he had said dismissively when they brought up helping the community. They needed to choose loyalty to their family or loyalty to the lessons learned through Maria's bravery. Before they could gather the courage to defy, news broke that Maria would lose her job. Their hearts raced. This was their moment. Would they stand up for her? Would they put everything on the line for the right thing, even as their world crumbled? Despair hung heavy in the air as they stood at this precipice. What legacy would they choose? What does family truly mean? The unwelcome night closed in, uncertain and electrifying, as they prepped for a bold stand. Would they embrace the path of justice, or retreat once more into privilege's shadow? Ethan's heart raced as he stared at the door through which his father had just exited. He could feel the tension crackling in the air like static electricity. Emma turned to him, her eyes searching his for direction. For a moment, it seemed like the weight of their decision hung suspended in time. "What do we do?" she whispered, urgency coloring her voice. Her brow was furrowed and Ethan could see the conflict swirling in her mind. He took a slow breath, keeping his voice steady. "We stand up for Maria. She risked everything for us. How can we turn our backs on her now?" Emma nodded, determination setting her jaw. "But our father, he won't understand. He thinks we're throwing away our advantages, our future." Ethan clenched his fists, feeling anger bubble beneath the surface. "Maybe that's the point. If we don't use our advantage to help others, what's the point of having it? We need to show him there's more to life than money." With a firm resolve settling between them, they set out to find Maria. Each step felt heavy, but there was a spark of excitement mingling with their fear. They found her in the small back room of the house, gathering her things. Her eyes widened when she saw them. "Ethan? Emma?" she said, hesitating. I thought you'd be with your family. What are you doing?" Ethan asked, a surge of urgency fueling his words. "We just heard the news. We won't let them do this to you." Maria looked down, the corners of her mouth trembling. "It's my job. It was bound to happen. Your father wouldn't understand." "Forget our father," Emma cut in, her voice stronger than she felt. "You sacrificed everything for us. It's time we do the same for you. We want to help." Maria blinked, surprise flickering in her eyes. "But how? You're just kids. You can't change the world." Ethan stepped forward, feeling the weight of his emotions. "Maria, you saved us. It's time we save you. We want to talk to our father. Tell him you deserve to keep your job because you do." Tears glistened in Maria's eyes as she shook her head slowly. "I can't let you put yourselves in danger. What if things go wrong?" Emma took Maria's hand, squeezing it softly. "We're more than just privileged kids now. We're ready to fight for what's right, for you." A flicker of hope ignited in Maria's gaze, but doubt lingered. "What if he fires you both?" Ethan brushed off the thought. "Then he fires us. But we need to try." With shared determination, they concocted a plan. They would confront their father, standing united. They would voice their convictions, and in doing so, reveal a new purpose that transcended the luxurious walls of their home. As the minutes ticked by, anticipation pricked at their skin. Finally, they made their way to the lavish dining room, freshly adorned for the party that awaited them. The loud chatter of guests sounded like a distant echo. Ethan reached for Emma's hand, feeling her warmth and steadiness. "Together," he said softly. "Together," she affirmed, but as they stepped into the storm of family expectations and probing eyes, the questions loomed like dark clouds: would they stand their ground, or would the fierce winds of family loyalty blow them back into silence? The evening felt electric, the fate of Maria and their futures hovering in the air. Would they find their voices when it mattered most? Would they challenge everything they'd ever known? It was time to unleash the truth. Ethan's heart pounded as they entered the dining room. The grand space, filled with elegantly dressed guests engaged in laughter and chatter, felt surreal. It was a world of privilege and polish, but he was now seeing it through a different lens. He felt out of place, yet every fiber of his being screamed that this was exactly where he needed to be. Emma squeezed his hand tighter as they approached the long, polished table. The centerpiece was a lavish arrangement of flowers, but to Ethan, it felt like a barrier between him and his father. He spotted him at the head of the table, discussing business matters with one of his associates, his suit crisp and his demeanor commanding. But behind that stern facade lay a man who had lost touch with the world outside their wealth. "Do we just tell him?" Emma whispered, her anxiety palpable. Ethan took a deep breath. "We will, but not until everyone is listening." His eyes flickered around the room, gauging the crowd. He saw more than family and friends, he saw the faces of people living in the same society that had benefited from Maria's hard work. They were complicit yet oblivious to the struggles beneath the surface. "Everyone!" he called out suddenly, his voice cutting through the murmur of conversation. Heads turned, the chamber growing quiet as their eyes fell upon the twins standing at the edge of the room. Emma's grip on his hand tightened, disbelief flickering across her face. "Ethan, wait, no, we have to do this now. The longer we wait, the harder it will get." With urgency propelling him forward, he stepped further into the room, amplifying the attention on them. His father raised an eyebrow, clearly unnerved by this outburst. "Ethan, what is the meaning of this?" "Dad," Ethan said, searching for the right words. "We need to talk about Maria. She has been nothing but loyal and hardworking for our family, and now you want to let her go." The words tumbled out of him, loaded with emotion. The room held its breath. He glanced at Emma, whose eyes flashed with encouragement, urging him on. "She deserves better than this," he continued, his voice gaining strength. "We cannot just throw her away like she means nothing." "What are you saying, Ethan? This isn't the time for this ridiculous sentimentality," his father replied, crossing his arms defensively. The tension was palpable, swirling like the finest wine in the crystal glasses held by their guests. Ethan held his ground, recalling Maria's worn hands working tirelessly. "It's not sentimentality. It's about doing what's right. She fought for us. She stood up for us. How can we turn our backs on her now?" Gasps echoed from the guests, murmurs of disbelief rising like a wave. Emma stepped forward, her voice clear and unwavering. "Dad, we understand it might affect our future. But at what cost? We're not willing to accept our privileges if it means abandoning the people who deserve our loyalty and respect." His father's face darkened, conflict dancing in his eyes. "You're jeopardizing everything we've built. You don't understand the implications of your words." Ethan felt a lump in his throat. This was the moment he had been dreading yet longing for. But what if we're making something even bigger? What if we can change things for the better? Can't you see? The air was thick with tension, a moment frozen in time. His father looked around, catching the faces of their guests, some familiar with Maria's work, understanding the betrayal in Ethan's sturdy gaze. The room held its breath as the clock ticked loudly, measuring the weight of Ethan's words. Would this be the moment everything changed? Would his father finally acknowledge the impact of their choices? Standing against all he had known, Ethan realized it all hung in the balance. The outcome of this confrontation could shape not just their lives but the lives of those around them. As silence filled the room, one question loomed large: was there courage enough to ignite real change? Ethan's heart raced as he met his father's gaze, the weight of his challenge hanging in the air like a heavy curtain. The silence felt eternal, but no one dared to break it. Guests fidgeted in their seats, exchanging worried glances, sensing the tidal wave of emotion that had just surged into their carefully curated evening. His father's expression twisted into a scowl, betraying a flicker of shame, or was it mere annoyance? "You think this is about Maria?" he hissed, lowering his voice, yet the coldness carried a thunderous impact. "This is about business. Our name, our reputation. What about humanity?" Ethan shot back, each word like a hammer striking the flagstone of his father's resolve. "This isn't just dollars and cents, Dad. Maria is not some expendable asset. She's family." The room shuddered at his use of the word family. Ethan saw Emma recoil a little as if the word had struck a nerve not just in their father but deep within them all. "Family," their father repeated, bitterness dripping from his lips. "You want to call her family? You want to drag us all into the mud with your nostalgia? Look around you, Ethan. This is a dinner of giants. Standing against us could destroy everything you, me, your sister." Ethan felt the cold reality settling in. His father's motives were clear, rooted in fear rather than malice, and it twisted his stomach. The thought of losing everything they had worked for, the people, the community, the privilege, clawed at him. But beneath that fear was something deeper, something he could almost touch. Emma pulled away slightly and placed her other hand over her heart. "You're wrong." Her voice sliced through the tension with a quiet conviction. "It's exactly in times like this that we must choose who we want to be. And if that means standing with Maria, then so be it. I would rather lose everything than betray someone who has given us so much." Ethan's heart surged. The sight of his twin, unwavering and fierce, fueled his own resolve. This was the sister who had always stood beside him, who had shared in countless adventures and mischief growing up. We can't be afraid of what others will think. We can't let their opinions come before what's right. You've taught us that. The crowd murmured, shifting in their seats as whispers flitted around the room. Some gazes seemed sympathetic, others flickered with disdain at the audacity of the twins. It was a tumultuous storm of judgment swirling around them, but Ethan felt himself standing taller, channeling every ounce of his belief in fairness and justice. His father clenched his jaw, the muscles tightening as if to choke off the words struggling to surface. "You think this is noble? That you're some kind of heroes? You're naive." The weight of the challenge shifted in the air. Right there, hopes and dreams teetered on the brink of acceptance or rejection. "No," Ethan said firmly, "we're not naive. We're learning what it means to stand up for something greater than ourselves." He turned, taking a deep breath, capturing the attention of the onlookers. "Maria is a beacon, and she deserves our loyalty. Let us not forget those who have supported us throughout our lives simply because we see them so often that we forget their struggles." At that moment, the rich scent of roast and wine seemed to fade into the background, leaving an electric charge that hummed through the room. Would his father finally see beyond the gilded cage they lived in? Or would power and pride blind him to the truth? A single tear traced its way down Emma's cheek, and Ethan reached for her hand once more, squeezing it tight. The twins stood united, heart pounding, knowing this was only the beginning. With their heads held high, they awaited their father's response, bracing themselves for whatever storm might follow. In that moment, they realized it was not just about Maria anymore, it was about the transformation of their own spirits, the awakening of empathy within a world that often scorned it. And there, in the charged silence, a new truth blossomed. Could they ignite a fire that would burn through societal divides and reshape their legacy forever? The answer lingered, heavy but bright, ready to change everything. His father's eyes narrowed, an unstable mix of anger and disbelief clouding his expression. For the first time, Ethan could sense a chink in the armor of his father's carefully cultivated facade. Those powerful emotions, usually so tightly controlled, now threatened to burst free. "You're both acting like children," he spat, voice tight. Ethan took an involuntary step back, the weight of disapproval heavy between them. "This is not a game. You don't truly understand the stakes." Ethan held on to Emma's hand tighter, his sister's silent strength reminding him he wasn't alone in this fight. "We have a choice, Dad. We will fight for Maria. We're standing for what is right, not just what is easy." Just then, a voice rose from the far end of the table. It was Mr. Lancaster, one of their father's closest allies. "Is this how you wish to represent the family, Ethan? Defending a maid in front of the city's elite? You're jeopardizing everything." The crowd stirred again, some nodding in agreement, eyes filled with judgment. Ethan could feel their disdain, but he steadied himself. "If we don't stand for Maria, what are we saying about ourselves? I refuse to let our name mean oppression and silence anymore. Not on my watch." The air crackled even more as murmurs erupted around the table, a cacophony of hushed voices and surprised gasps. Emma's gaze flickered to their father, searching for something, anything. Where was the love that had always been a constant in their family? Strangers were staring, but what mattered more was the look on Emma's face, a mix of fear and determination. Their father's hands balled into fists, his face a storm of confusion and rage. "You think this is some noble quest? I built this empire, Ethan. You are playing with fire. Do you know what it takes to keep everything we have?" "Maybe," Ethan said, raising his voice just above the murmurs, "maybe it's time to build something new. Something better. If love means sacrificing our privilege to stand with Maria, then so be it. I'd rather lose everything than lose sight of who we are." There was a moment of pregnant silence. Guests exchanged glances, some with admiration, others with disdain. At that moment, the world outside the grand estate faded away, and there was only this uneasy standoff. The moment stretched, tension pouring from both sides, a battlefield of principles. Ethan could feel the ground shift beneath them. What lay hidden behind his father's tightly wrapped emotions? Regret? Helplessness? Finally, his father broke the silence, his voice uncharacteristically soft yet laced with authority. "You're both young and foolish. You don't realize that sacrifice isn't romantic. It's painful, Ethan. We could lose everything. Our humanity is worth the pain, Ethan fought back, the words pouring from a place deep within him. You must understand that winning can mean losing everything that matters if we've betrayed those we claim to care about. Tears brimmed in Emma's eyes, but her jaw was set, radiating resolve. Each heartbeat echoed in Ethan's ears as he waited, restless, for their father's response. Would he decide to fight back or yield to the truth they dared to unearth? One glance at Emma and they both knew they wouldn't back down. This was bigger than them. This was about reshaping their family legacy, defining it through compassion, not just wealth. Their father opened his mouth, something incomprehensible about to emerge, when unexpectedly, a voice broke through, gentle yet real. It was Maria, standing at the edge of the dining area, her figure framed by soft light. Please, sir. I don't want to come between you. I just want to work hard for my family. The entire room fell silent. Her courage captured everyone's attention, and suddenly the focus shifted. Ethan's heart raced. This was the moment he never anticipated, where Maria became the catalyst for change. Could her bravery inspire others? And would it be enough to sway their father? He took a step toward her, taking a breath filled with hope and conviction. See? He said, voice steadying. She's right. We can choose the better path. Will you listen? As Maria's eyes locked onto theirs, Ethan felt an unseen thread link everyone in that room together. A looming choice hovered above them all, confrontation or reconciliation, pride or progress. What would their father finally decide? With everything hanging in the balance, uncertain futures lay ahead, and his heart thudded with the hope that this could lead to something radically new. Would they finally ignite the fire of change, or would they extinguish it before it ever truly began? The silence in the room felt heavy, like a thick fog that hung between them, but within that fog, something was shifting. Maria's voice had cut through the tension with honesty that sparked something in Ethan. He could see the flicker of curiosity in their father's eyes, battling against the weight of his pride. Mr. Lancaster, Maria continued, her voice trembling but strong, I don't want to be a burden. I just want to care for my mother and little brother. Your children, they do not need to carry the weight of my struggles. Ethan's heart swelled at her courage, and yet he noticed Emma's grip on his hand tightening. She was afraid of the storm brewing in their father's chest. Maria, their father began, his voice low but cutting, you have every right to want to care for your family. But this world, it is not for dreamers. He paused, searching for words as if he were sifting through a turbulent sea. Then let us change the world. Emma burst out, her voice raw, a blend of desperation and fierce determination. This isn't just about us, it's about bringing dignity to those like Maria. If we can use our privilege to make lives better, what more could we ask for? Ethan's eyes darted to their father, hoping to see any sign of understanding. The man's face was still a storm, but something flickered behind his eyes. A hint of vulnerability that he rarely shared. Control, it's what this has always been about, his father finally revealed, his voice breaking slightly. What I have built, the power. I believed it could protect us. But I see now that it's a cage. Around them, the guests were transfixed, their expressions a mix of intrigue and skepticism. For a moment, it felt like the entire room was holding a breath, waiting to see which way the tide would turn. The cost of freedom is heavy, Ethan, their father said, more to him than anyone else. And I won't lie, I fear it. What if we reach out and lose everything? Ethan stepped closer to his father, his voice catching but steady. What if we reach out and save something far greater than material wealth? We could inspire change. Look at Maria. She is more than her status, she embodies hope. The air crackled with a rare energy, an unspoken agreement hanging on the precipice of the moment. Would the past close its grip on them, or could they forge a new path together? You need to understand, their father murmured, his gaze shifting around the room. Change doesn't come easy. It takes work. It takes vulnerability. And perhaps one brave act isn't enough. Maria shifted nervously but stood tall, meeting the man's gaze. I have faith. If I can rise above my circumstances, then so can others. But we need people who are willing to listen, to help. And perhaps, to finally see. Ethan felt at the shift in the air, the formidable barrier his father had built started to weaken. Could they really do this? Could working together lead to something greater than they had imagined? Suddenly, their father inhaled sharply, as if pulling strength from deep within. Then it begins here. Today, he declared, looking around the room, his voice laced with both uncertainty and strength. But know this, it will not be an easy road. Are you both prepared to face what lies ahead? Yes. Emma exclaimed, her eyes bright with hope. Ethan nodded, heart pounding in agreement. We're ready. As the gravity of their commitment sunk in, a new wave of tension surged through the room. It felt different now, charged with purpose. But alongside that charge came impending dread. What lay ahead wouldn't just be a battle for justice, it would be a battle for their family, their beliefs, and everything they stood for. All right then, their father said, a hesitant smile creeping into the edges of his mouth. Let us see where this journey takes us, beginning with setting the record straight. Ethan felt that flicker of hope burst into flame. They were on the edge of something incredibly transformative, but in the pit of his stomach lingered a fear. What will this journey demand of them? Just as they all started to breathe a sigh of relief, the door swung open, revealing a frantic figure stumbling into the room, their face a mask of urgency. With an echoing voice, they exclaimed, "You must come quickly. There's been an incident." Maria's family. The words hung heavy in the air. What incident? What danger awaited? As the whispers of confusion rushed back into the room, Ethan braced himself, heart racing, as everything hung in the balance once again. Would this battle for justice become a battle for survival? Ethan's heart raced as the urgent figure stepped inside, eyes frantic, breathless with fear. The world around him seemed to blur, the chatter of guests fading into whispers, a distant hum. He felt the weight of the room pressing in, the air thick with concern. Maria's family? He repeated, his voice barely above a whisper. Emma squeezed his hand tighter, her face pale. Yes. The newcomer gasped, glancing between them and their father. There's been an accident, a fire at their home. They need help, urgently. Someone saw the blaze spreading. If no one intervenes, it'll be too late. Ethan felt as if the ground had shifted beneath him. The resolve they had just begun to build felt fragile, teetering, that hope now vulnerable to the chaos outside. We have to do something, he said, his voice gathering strength. Now. Turning to his father, Ethan felt that flicker of defiance again. This is what we're fighting for. People like Maria need us now. We can't ignore this. Their father's brow furrowed, the storm in his eyes clashing with the dawning realization of responsibility. But we need to be careful, there's so much to consider. What if? Enough of the what-ifs, Dad. This isn't about us anymore, Emma interrupted, her voice firm. Maria's family is in danger. We can't let fear hold us back. With each word, Ethan felt a growing surge of determination. It wasn't just about doing the right thing. It was about forging a new legacy, one shaped by compassion and action. Let us go, he urged, moving toward the door. If we wait, it might be too late. The urgency of the situation pulled them forward as they stormed out of the room, the once crowded space now echoing behind them. As they rushed through the hallways, Ethan's mind raced. He had known Maria for years, watched her work tirelessly while struggling to provide for her family. A fire? It felt surreal. How could this happen just as they were on the verge of something meaningful? The sun had started to set, casting an orange glow that painted the sky ominously. They raced to the street, the panic settling like a jagged knot in his stomach. Neighbors stood outside, faces pale, pointing toward thick plumes of smoke billowing from the direction of Maria's home. Ethan turned to Emma, who was scanning the growing crowd, searching for any hint of Maria's family. "What do we do first?" she asked, voice shaking. "We surround them." Ethan felt the determination grow stronger. "We'll gather everyone. It's time to act as a community." Emma's eyes lit up with the spark of their earlier discussion. "We can't let fear win," she said. "We'll show them what hope looks like. Maria deserves more than just sympathy. She needs support." With that, they plunged into the chaos, shouting for help, gathering anyone willing to assist. It wasn't just about Maria's home now, it was about what they all stood for, the heart of the community they had taken for granted for too long. As they organized the onlookers into teams, some for firefighting, others for searching through the wreckage, Ethan felt a rush of gratitude. This was it, a chance to solidify the promises they had made. But the gnawing in his gut deepened as he wondered if they would arrive in time. Suddenly, a heartbeat away from action, a figure emerged from the haze, a silhouette that could have been mistaken for a ghost. It was Maria, out of breath and wide-eyed, staggering forward. "Please," she gasped, desperately grasping Ethan's arm. "My brother, he is still inside." A wave of raw panic swept over Ethan. They were caught in the fire of a different battle now. "We'll get him," he shouted, rallying everyone around. "We can't waste another moment." Bolting toward the flames, their breaths quickened, voices filled with urgency. This was their moment to turn fear into courage. But would they be strong enough to face the inferno? Ethan steeled himself. If there was any hope left, it would be in the flames, and they had to dive in headfirst. Could they save Maria's brother, or was it a fight that would change them forever? Ethan barely felt the heat of the flames as they rushed toward him, a wall of searing heat and smoke. He looked back at Emma and the others, their faces grim and determined, and nodded. There was no turning back now. Only one thought consumed him: Maria's brother was still inside, and they wouldn't let him down. "On my count," he shouted over the roar of the fire, adrenaline coursing through him. His voice cracked slightly, but he swallowed it down. 3, 2, 1, go. They lunged into the choking smoke, fanning out in formation. The air was thick, almost tangible, wrapping around them like a suffocating blanket. Ethan could just make out the flickering shadows cast by the flames dancing dangerously around the edges of the room. "Stay low," Emma called out, following Ethan's lead. They crouched, moving carefully forward, hearts pounding. The sound of cracking wood echoed as the fire precariously consumed everything in its path. Ethan stretched his hands forward, fingertips brushing against walls that felt like they were alive with heat. He could almost hear his pulse beating in his ears, syncopating with the chaos around him. "Maria," he called, hoping against hope that she could hear him. The answering silence cut deeper than any flame. As they pushed further in, darkness swallowed the light. Ethan's breath caught as he thought of the face of a child, vibrant and hopeful but now in danger. He shook it off, focusing on the task ahead. "Over here," Emma exclaimed suddenly, pointing toward a door at the far corner. A girl that looked about Maria's age appeared in the only faint ray of light breaking through. "It's got to be just past that door. We can't stop now." They raced toward it, but Ethan hesitated. The flames were starting to engulf the doorway ahead. He could feel the heat rising behind him, like the angry breath of a dragon. "We'll create a path. Let us block the heat." With the instinct of a born leader, he motioned the others to move with him. Emma and a couple of volunteers grabbed anything they could: pieces of furniture, wooden beams. They formed a crude barrier, shielding their backs from the advancing fire. "Now!" Ethan shouted, flinging the door wide open. The window of opportunity felt impossibly real. The smoke poured out around them, but he lunged through anyway, straining against the powerful stink of burning ash. Inside, everything was dark, soot-filled confusion. He squinted and began his search, heart racing faster than his feet. "Maria's brother!" he shouted, voice reverberating against the walls. "Where are you?" From the depths of ebony shadows, a small whimper echoed, barely heard over the crackling inferno. Ethan's heart squeezed. It wasn't just fear swelling in his chest, it was an undeniable urge to protect, to rescue, to bring hope back into a shattered moment. "Hang on!" he cried, moving toward the sound, arms reaching into the blackness. He felt a small hand grasp his forearm, fragile yet fighting. "Help me!" came the high-pitched voice, trembling with terror. Ethan's breath caught. He pulled the boy closer, feeling his frail body trembling against his own. "I've got you," he said, voice steady. "We're getting you out." Behind them, the fire roared, a fierce entity of heat and fury. "Emma!" Ethan called to the flickering shadows beyond. "We need to move." In an instant, she was there, urgency marking her face. Together, they supported the boy, moving through the flames that nipped at their heels. Every step felt monumental, a fight against the odds. But suddenly, another boom echoed, and a beam near them cracked, threatening to collapse. Ethan's heart raced as he felt the ground shift beneath him. "Run!" he yelled, picking up speed as the flames threatened to swallow them whole. The hot air burned his lungs as they dashed toward the door, rescuing the boy and leaving treacherous chaos in their wake. Everything was a blur, but Ethan could feel Emma nipping close behind, their resolve pushing them forward. They burst out into the cool air, the night sky alive with firelight, and Ethan felt a fleeting rush of relief. But even as he stumbled into the safety of the night, the cracks of the fire beat like a drum in his ears. Behind him, he could see shadows moving, voices rising, the horror still unfolding. Did they make it in time? Ethan knew this fight wasn't just against flames, it was against fear itself. The town was buzzing now, neighbors gathering and gasping, eyes wide, hearts aching to know the fate of things they cherished. They had jumped into the fire, but would they come out unburned? As they regrouped outside, shaking and breathless, Ethan locked eyes with Maria, who was waiting, hope flickering like the flames behind them. "Is he?" Maria's voice cracked, fear wrapping around her heart. Ethan's resolve hardened. They had saved one life, but was it enough? Would they be able to face the aftermath of this act? The night was alive with uncertainty, but one thing was clear, they had ignited a fire of their own, one fueled by courage and hope. And with that, Ethan knew that the real battle was just beginning. What would it take to overcome this and ensure their community never faced such devastation again? Ethan steadied himself, the weight of the boy's small body still clinging to him like a lifeline. The cool night air felt foreign after the oppressive heat, but it did little to ease the knot in his stomach. The evening's chaos swirled around him, voices blending into a cacophony of panic and disbelief. "Please, is he okay?" Maria's voice trembled, edged with a raw vulnerability that sliced through the crowd's murmurs. Ethan turned to her, heart aching. In her wide eyes, he saw a mixture of fear and desperation, a mirrored reflection of his own. "He's here," he promised, motioning to the boy wrapped in his arms, now just beginning to breathe steadily. "He's safe, he's with us." Just then, the boy looked up, his face smudged with soot and tears streaming down his cheeks like ashes in the wind. "Maria?" he whispered, his voice trembling. A rush of relief flooded Maria's face as she knelt to embrace the boy. "Oh, Simon!" she cried, her arms wrapping around him tightly. For a moment, the chaos faded away, leaving just the two of them in their fragile reunion, but Ethan's heart sank again. They had saved Simon, but there were still so many unknowns. The fire raged behind them, filling the night sky with an infernal glow. He glanced over his shoulder, anxiety tightening his chest. Would they lose more than they already had? Emma stood nearby, scanning the crowd, her face pale and drawn. "We need to check on everyone," she insisted, instinctual bravery shining in her eyes. "We made it out, but we need to know if anyone else is trapped inside." Ethan nodded, but the thought of going back in made his stomach churn. What if they found more children? A weighty decision hung in the air. Leaving the scene with Simon in tow felt like abandoning hope. What can we do? He asked Emma, voice hoarse. She looked him squarely in the eye. We rally the others. There's strength in numbers. We can't let fear stop us, not now. With renewed resolve, Ethan took a deep breath and turned back to the crowd. Listen up. He called, his voice breaking through the confusion. We need volunteers. We need to search every inch of that house. We can't leave anyone behind. Gradually, hands shot up. Neighbors, friends, even strangers stepped forward. There was something healing in coming together, a force ignited by shared determination. Let us do this, Emma said, moving into position beside him. They exchanged a glance, both knowing they were entering the storm again. Smoke still billowed from the house, wrapping the night in a ghostly veil. The flames danced like angry spirits, but Ethan felt an unshakable strength coursing through him. He wasn't alone. They were a community, a family. They pushed past the remnants of fear, forming a line to enter once more into the belly of the beast. Ethan felt his heart race as gray smoke enveloped him again. The air tasted bitter, sharp. Yet he pressed on, ears straining for the sound of voices beyond the roaring chaos. Maria! He shouted, recalling the childlike laughter they had worked so hard to protect. If you're in there, we're coming. The echoes of his voice hit a wall of darkness, and doubt flickered on the edges of his mind. But they couldn't stop, not yet. They ventured deeper, shadows writhed into figures, faces blurring with the weight of smoke. Then, suddenly, a child's voice, a whisper lost in the murmur of fire. Help! Please, help! It was a plea that cut through the air, piercing their resolve. Ethan exchanged a silent glance with Emma, determination igniting once more in their eyes. Where there's breath, there's hope. Just as Ethan began to move toward that desperate sound, he noticed a change in the air, a sudden shift that hinted at danger. Get back! Emma shouted, but it was too late. In an instant, the ceiling above them shuddered. Ethan's heart stopped, an icy dread washing over him as the world slowed. Would this end in tragedy before they had even found the others? Or could they overcome the fury of the flames once again? Ethan and Emma stumbled back as the ceiling cracked, the roar of flames echoing ominously around them. Panic surged through the air, but somewhere deep inside, Ethan felt the push of purpose. We've come too far to stop now. He yelled, voice strong despite the danger. They had battled darkness all evening, they wouldn't falter at the finish line. Let us go. Emma shouted, adrenaline coursing as she squared her shoulders. Together, they dove further into the chaos, fear dancing on the edges but courage aflame in their hearts. They sought the child, each step a testament to the community they had ignited around them. As they pressed onward, the smoky air thickened, making each breath feel like an act of defiance. Ethan could sense the urgency in Emma's presence, her determination pushing them forward like a fierce wind. They had come prepared for this moment, not as privileged children but as warriors for a cause. The whispers of desperation became a cacophony of hope, guiding them deeper. We're coming. Ethan called again, feeling the weight of the world resting on their shoulders. After what felt like an eternity, they found a door barely clinging to its frame, the sound of tiny whimpers pouring through. Over here. Emma pointed, urgency lacing her tone. They hesitated for a brief moment, then Ethan jerked the door open, the remaining hinges splintering under the weight of their resolve. Inside, they found a small girl cowering beneath a table, eyes wide like saucers, her face streaked with fear. Don't be scared. Emma soothed gently, kneeling to meet the girl's terrified gaze. We're here to help you. In that moment, the heart of their mission pulsed bright with purpose. We can do this, Ethan said, catching Emma's eye. Together. With a comforting hand wrapped around the frightened girl's shoulders, they made their way back, guiding her through the crumbling debris and choking smoke. Ethan felt the heat rise, the chaos pressing against them, but there was no turning back now. The fire crackled its warning, yet they had an invigorating hope propelling them onward, the determination to save more lives. Emerging from the smoke, Simon rushed toward them, his small frame still clinging to Maria. As the siblings embraced tightly, Ethan felt a rush of relief mixed with desperation. There was still a battle ahead, they couldn't lose sight of what this was all for. "Help is on the way." A voice echoed from the crowd outside, instilling hope in Ethan's chest. As they stepped out into the cool night air, support materialized. Neighbors united, strength swelling within the community. It was a force that transcended privilege. The fight would move beyond the flames, he realized. This wasn't merely saving lives from the fire, it was about empowering those who felt powerless. They would harness this collective strength to uplift one another. As they pulled Maria and Simon away from the blaze, the sight of their neighborhood illuminated by the dance of recent chaos betrayed the gravity of the night. Yet there was resilience in that fire-lit glow, it was a promise of determination threaded through the ashes. "Thank you," Maria whispered, clutching her brother closer, tears of gratitude pouring from her eyes like rain after a storm. Ethan glanced at Emma, who nodded, her eyes shining with understanding. It was a new beginning, fueled by the love and unity that radiated from this community like warmth against the night chill. As more people converged to support and assess the damage, a powerful certainty anchored within Ethan. They had not only saved lives, they had catalyzed change. "We're going to rebuild," Emma declared, addressing those gathered around them. "Together, as a community, we'll support each other. No one will face hardship alone." The promise hung in the air like a sparkling constellation, igniting hope against the blackened sky. Ethan turned to his father, who stood silently among the crowd, a figment of disbelief. "I think this is where we begin to make amends," he said, his voice steady despite the tumultuous emotions churning within. "I get it. Now," their father replied, eyes wide with realization. "It's bigger than us, it's about everyone." With hands joined and hearts collective, they all stood beneath the stars that shined through the smoke. A night that started in chaos had transformed into a new story, one of resilience, unity, and love, and as the flames faded, Ethan knew they had just begun to script their legacy of change, one that would resonate in this community long after the flickering glow of fire was extinguished. Now, dear friends, listen deeply. This is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now to our channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that will touch your heart. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep this message of hope alive. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this inspiring ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Stand with us as we continue this journey of uplift and change.